I'm doing this video to tell you about my transformation journey over this past year and the health transformation I've experienced. And I think some of the things I'm going to talk about, a lot of you out there are going to be able to relate with. So here we go. Back a year ago, January, I decided I've got to do something. So I got an app that I paid a little extra for that was an intermittent fasting app. So I tracked my intermittent fasting. My average was about 20 hours. You know, it shows you when you're in the peak fat burning mode. And I was checking, I was in ketosis. Everything was looking good. You know, I'm doing intermittent fasting. I want to lose weight. And I was several weeks into it and nothing had changed. Nothing. And so I thought, oh, what's going on here? I guess I need to add something else to this. So I decided, okay, I'm going to do the keto diet, which I always laugh about because over the years I've done it off and on, but I've never been confident when I was doing it that I was doing the right formula. And I'd read a book, you know, and I was checking, I was in ketosis, but nothing was changing. I mean, nothing. And I didn't realize it then. I realize now that I was in insulin resistance, and I was also, my mitochondria and my metabolism were broke. But I didn't know that at the time. So therefore, nothing was happening because I needed to fix what was going on the inside. But I just persevered and kept going, and I decided, okay, I'm going to add exercise to this because I've never been one for exercise, but of course now I am. I love it. But you know, over the years, I've never been able to hold down any exercise program. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to at least try to walk. So we have a beautiful nature walking trail by where I live. I just walk around the block and the corner, and there it is. And so I thought, I'm going to get out there and walk. So I got out there and started walking, and it was a sunny day, and I looked down, I saw my shadow, and I was like, gross. I'm not staying out here for other people to see me because I was so grossed out by my shadow. And so I thought, I'm going back to my neighborhood. So I started walking in my neighborhood. And I was like a couple weeks into it, I was building my steps up. And then one day I thought, what the heck are you doing, Dena? Get out there on that trail. Who cares what anybody thinks? You don't have anything to prove. And so I said, I'm doing it. So I got back out on the trail, started building up my walking, 1 mile, 1.5 miles, and I can tell you, I was out walking the other day and it was sunny. I looked down at my shadow and I have a new shadow. But anyway, I just kept going, and I was like, okay, checking out my numbers, the scale, nothing was changing. I was intermittent fasting, I was doing keto, I was exercising, and I was stuck. And I didn't understand why, and I was so frustrated. So what I did was I had to do a procedure, and they said, you need to fast 3 days. Well, after I'd done the procedure and came out of that, I thought, you know what? After you fast for 3 days, you're not hungry anyway. So I said, I'm going to keep fasting. So I kept fasting. I think I fasted about a week. And at the end of that week, I was like, well, I'm not going back on keto, Why? I don't even know what's going on there. Nothing's happening. Why would I want to go back on keto? And so I thought, I'll just eat meat today and then figure it out. And so the first day I ate meat, and the second day I just ate meat, was still trying to figure out. Meanwhile, I was fixing animal-based protein, breads and pancakes or waffles and, different things like that. And just eating meat. And I think I was about a week into it. And one day I had an epiphany. I thought, I think I'm a carnivore. I think I'm a carnivore because I didn't want to go back to anything else. I loved the diet I was on. Now, this is not for everybody, so that's not what I'm promoting here, but I was telling you what worked for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling really good. My brain fog is leaving. And so about the same time, I had a very dear friend of mine called me and go, Dena, have you heard about peptides? And I go, well, as a matter of fact, the truth is I've been studying it, and I had, because I used to work at a functional medicine place. So we would put people on GLPs, to lose weight. And I remember thinking, I'm just so desperate, because no weight was dropping, nothing was happening. I just started the carnivore diet, and I thought, you know what, it's worth a try. So she goes, I'm sending, the first round to you. So she sent me a GLP, and I'll talk about it later. And but meanwhile, I did a deep dive in studying on peptides, and I loved I loved everything I was reading. It was the most fascinating thing to do a deep dive on peptides and started learning about, how that's what our body is made up of anyway. And I see it's pulling me in. It's pulling me in. I'm going to pull myself back. I'll talk about peptides on another, but it was revolutionary. And so I was like, okay, I've got the peptides going. I've got I really had stopped intermittent fasting because I wasn't eating anyway, but until later on in the day. So I thought, and I want to say at the same time, and this is so important, I had gotten a scale, and I'm going to talk about that scale on another video. It has probably played a more pivotal role in revolutionizing my health than anything, with everything combined. It took all of these things, but you could read what was going on the inside, because I'm just going to encourage you, if you're going to do peptides and something similar, you want to be able to know what it's doing. Just reading your weight dropping isn't telling you everything that's going on. I was looking at my numbers of my fat loss, and it was epic. It was epic. My fat mass, my subcutaneous fat, my visceral fat, everything was dropping, and I was almost like in shock. And as that started happening, along with my carnivore diet and my exercise and everything was going on, my health started transforming. I'll tell you on another video about a health scare I had that I went to the emergency room, but in the long run, what it pointed me back to is that the lifestyle I was living and sustaining was changing my health for the better. So I'll tell you about that later. It had to do with my thyroid. It basically healed that. So all of that to say, it has revolutionized my health. It has transformed my health. And notice I'm saying health, because at first it was like, I got to lose weight. But then with the scale, as I started looking at all the things I was reading on that and putting together and adjusting and figuring out what I had to do, I started realizing it really is more about health for me, and about losing this fat off my body, which can affect your health. And so I started seeing that transform, and it inspired me. When you see change, it inspires you to want to, I can do this, So that's been the past year. And I'd say from August, when I started the health, the scale and the peptides and the carnivore diet, everything started changing. And I can honestly say it was about 4 months into it that I knew something had changed with my mitochondria, because I started studying about mitochondria, and my metabolism and my insulin resistance all started coming into alignment. And the parts of my receptors in my body that were supposed to function like that, to deal with those things to begin with, turned on and started working for me. And brain fog, all these things started leaving, and I started seeing a transformation. Thus, transformation with Dena. Because I figure I'm not unusual from everybody else. And probably a lot of you have gone through some of these same things. Maybe you've gotten your breakthrough. Maybe you're still looking for how to. I would like to be able to throw some things out there for you. And if you can step into some things, hopefully it can help you too. So stay with me and go on this journey with me. I want to see everybody experience this, no matter what age you are.